Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Draw with T. Do you remember that Max portrait I did a couple episodes back? Do you remember who Max is? Kind of good enough. So here I am drawing a character in Max's story that right now is just called Ghost Knight. And in fact, as the time of recording this, Ghost Knight actually hasn't made a proper appearance yet on my TikTok. For those of you just tuning in fresh, Max is a OC character on TikTok that I drew, and if that doesn't confuse you, then nothing else in the universe ever will. Ghost Knight is basically me in my armor, with TikTok effects to make the knight look ghostly. Ghost Knight is basically the mentor type character to Max, and only comes out now and again, and is not always available. Like, their knowledge is not always available to Max for plot reasons. Ghost Knight also can't really do much to help Max. Like, if Max is getting beat up, Ghost Knight can't really do shit. Which is hilarious because Ghost Knight is definitely a very competent person, and if Ghost Knight had the sword, there would be a lot less hijinks, but alas, Ghost Knight doesn't have the sword, which just kind of adds to the flavor of the story. So here in this sketch, this was supposed to be a pretty chill sketch, and ended up not necessarily being a very chill image. I thought this image was going to take be real quick. All I had to do was draw a toonized version of me in my armor, which I've actually already done, and you're going to see pop up here a little later on when I'm doing the coloring for this. It's the icon that I tend to use everywhere, so chances are you've probably already seen it already. I still kind of like that image. However, I've been kind of in an art slump of late, and I was feeling very critical of my art, and, well, to be honest, even watching myself draw here, I can see myself fixing mistakes that are, I'm glad that I'm fixing them here, but it definitely wasn't the quick drawing that I was expecting it to be. It did take a lot of time, and it turned out okay in the end, but I think it could have been better, and, that's something I want to fix in the future, but, enough of that. I think I've talked about that enough in the last few episodes. So with Ghost Knight here, there's not much to denote Ghost Knight in the sketch phase, and there's not going to be much in the ink phase. It's really in the color phase that Ghost Knight is going to become Ghost Knight, as opposed to just, kind of a serious looking me in armor, or a serious version of my armor in general. So yeah, here, I'm kind of trying to get a good mix of the realism of my armor along with kind of principles of cartooning, and I think I did all right. I think I rushed quite a few things, but I think it kind of works. The problem that I have is my armor looks impressive because it's armor, but when I go to draw it, there are just things that I want to change, and I want to change heavily, such as the fact that when it comes to my armor, there is no, there's not really any neck, and instead of neck, my helmet just really descends quite low, and it's also quite wide, and I'd like to kind of give this knight character more of a neck, but since in this instance, this character is literally, this is a drawing of me in my armor, so I wanted it to have the likeliness, the looks of this character, so I didn't want to get too wild with the things that I changed. I still wanted people to see and be like, ooh, you drew this character, even though the character is me, so it's not really fan art, it's just kind of me drawing myself, which is kind of weird, and also seems kind of egotistical. That stuff like that worries me, even though I didn't do it to be egotistical. I was literally just looking for something different to draw. I was kind of at this point trying just to find something new, because I'd been drawing portraits of my Calasmere characters, and I thought, well, maybe I want to do portraits, but of other stuff, and no, that kind of wasn't it, or, I was very hypercritical when I was doing this, so no, I don't really want to do that, and, in future episodes I try other things, but, definitely doing this, I was frustrated with certain things, and just kind of, there's a lot more stuff that needs to be considered. Ooh, I really don't like that. So, I don't know. Figure's a bit boxed up and a little thin and just kind of wonky, and I sort of fix it here. I actually don't think I really do. But yeah, there you go. That's kind of Ghost Knight for you, all inked up. Once we get to color, I'll have we can start talking a little bit more about things here. You know, oh, finally here. This is where I start exploring what's going to make Ghost Knight Ghost Knight. So I tried first the simple idea of just making the lines kind of a white color, and then you know, just shading it normally, but otherwise having white lines to be like, ooh, spooky. Other ideas I had was to kind of make Ghost Knight transparent. That I don't think I did. Ultimately, what I'm going to do... Oh, there's the classic icon of me. You know, me as a knight. I think I could update that, but, you know, it's... This portrait of Ghost Knight shouldn't have taken so long, but it did. You know, sometimes that happens. And here I'm trying to thief the colors off of my portrait, but because those are so bright and Ghost Knight's supposed to be kind of set in kind of a darker setting, it didn't quite work. Ghost Knight doesn't really have eyes, and if you can see Ghost Knight's eyes, they aren't blue, but that's just kind of something I decided to do, take some artistic licensing here. You know, ultimately what I'm going to decide to do is mimic one of the effects on TikTok, one of the video effects that I use to make characters seem ghostly. It's kind of called the illusion effect, I believe, and it kind of makes a character, or rather it makes a person kind of glow a little bit, and then also they sort of have a little bit of an after image, and that after image is sort of a mix of orange and blue, which is kind of very interesting and very cool. And also I had no idea how I was going to portray it here in art, in artistic form, and I almost wasn't. I was just gonna do whatever I wanted to make Ghost Knight feel like a ghost, because I hadn't really shot the character. I hadn't finalized what effects I was going to use. You know, there wasn't like a character Bible set up yet, and there still isn't one. But you know, after having drawn this, I kind of know what I'm gonna do for the character, and I might still get surprised. Who knows, right? So this is where things are gonna start getting interesting. This is where I'm gonna start redoing things a lot. There you can see I'm already trying to redo this. Here I'm trying to shade in Ghost Knight, and I'm kind of torn between because here's my problem with this character. They're supposed to be a knight, so obviously, you know, a knight, you want to shade them, you know, like you would shade metal, right? So kind of realistic, and you know, a lot of shine and shadows, which I'm not the greatest with, despite owning armor. I really have slacked off in my, you know, shading studies of metal. However, with an ethereal character like a ghost, I was a bit worried to shade this character too realistically for fear of kind of solidifying them in the real world. I wanted them to feel ephemeral, so I kind of tried a mix of the sort of, I almost want to say amateurish looking shading. I say amateurish because I was trying for something in between both, and it ended up just looking like I had no idea how to shade metal, which granted, I kind of don't, but I probably have a better idea than I was letting on here with this. Here it starts to get a little bit more sophisticated. You can tell I'm kind of adding a little bit of that gathered pockets of shine that happen. And then here, you know, I'm going to be fussing with this for quite a while. We're about, halfway through? I'm basically going to be fussing with this for the rest of the time here. What ultimately is going to happen, their good timing, is I start placing in these sort of shade lines, and that starts to tell me that what I need to do is shade it like I would metal, just not with the deep dark shadows, and then apply the TikTok effect that's to come as well, and that'll kind of mimic it. And in hindsight, that makes perfect sense, because the TikTok filter itself is applied to a real figure wearing real armor with real lighting effects, aka me. So, you know, once I didn't really wrap my head around that until afterwards, and I was kind of tired when I was working on this. I was in a bit of a negative mood, because I was doing this portrait and I thought it would be easier, and I already, when I'd sketched it and left it for the next day, I was already thinking, I really should, as cool as it is to do my own characters, I really should take some time and do some art studies. But I ultimately thought, well, I could, finish up the portrait and then move on to my studies. But instead I spent a lot of time, I spent all the time that I had kind of working on Ghost Knight here. And I was struggling to bring some kind of subtle color to Ghost Knight, and here I do it manually. Little did I know, 3 days later I'd have a great conversation with a friend, and she would give me some hot tips on how, a lot of digital artists literally make things look unified color-wise, with gradients. And here I start tossing out the white line idea because it was really interfering with my shading. And here I waffle about on how I want to do my lines. I kind of, at first, just kind of settle for the dark line, and then here you can see I'm now shading in, and that white line on the back instantly works as a highlight, and I was very, very happy with that. That was amazing. I'm still very happy with it. And here I'm just kind of tweaking things, and at this point I accepted that this portrait was not going to be quick and fast, and that I was probably not getting any other art done for the day. So I decided, well, I might as well make something decent. So I just started picking at it, experimenting with it, trying to find how I'm gonna shade metal in my style. Because it's easy enough for me to go study the realism of my armor. I have access to armor. I can shade it. I can understand it that way. But that doesn't necessarily translate to how it's going to look in my style. In a cartoony style, you don't want it shaded like it's a Leonardo da Vinci painting. That will just look odd. It's got to match the style, and I think I did pretty okay here for the fact that I actually haven't studied metal before doing this, and I think when I do studies of that, I think it's going to inform me better. Here, once again, I'm trying to add subtle colors to Ghost Knight, and, some of it I think I left in. I think there's a little bit of red, warm lighting to the back, and a little bit of cool lighting to the front. I think it works out, although I think it gets obliterated by the effect that's coming up here soon. Still, the great thing is I've recorded this footage, so if I do like that version, of Ghost Knight, I can pull it up. Though, saying that, I think I actually have a file of it in the Photoshop file without the effects that I'm about to apply. And here I'm just kind of, I'm kind of playing around with the line art a little bit more. What do I want it to be? And I'm actually painting in the line art, which is maybe a bit much. But, some of it looks really nice. Some of it. Some of it also doesn't look incredibly great now that I'm looking at it. And then at this point I realized I'd utterly forgotten about these belts here. Like, utterly forgotten about them. Like, I just left them in the line art. I hadn't even shaded or done anything with them on any of the other layers. I had only been working on the metal, so here I'm remedying that, and it's going to take me a little bit to kind of figure it out, but I'll get there in the end. Again, the brown isn't really a color that I would pick for this character, but because I was drawing myself, my armor straps up there are brown, and they're actually probably a lot lighter brown than that, but you lie in art to tell the truth. Yes, in here I'm trying some shading with the line art on the belts. And just like the armor, now I'm kind of like shading in the line art, dark on one side, light on the other, just kind of exploring it. Do I, make the belt metal bits a different color, or do I leave them the same? I think I ultimately decided to leave them the same. Now I'm just kind of picking at it. Come on, Tegan, move along. Here we go. Now I'm starting to do the effects. So, this will kind of give you an idea of how the TikTok effect looks like. So there's sort of a mix between orange and blue, and here I'm going to try and find some different ways of making the effect happen. It's kind of a weird glow and an after image. And it's sort of both behind and on top of you. And yeah, here we go. Here we're starting to make progress. And I'm gonna double it. Yep. And looking at it now, it's a little weird, but that's probably about as good as I can make it to the effect on TikTok. And yeah, that's kind of Ghost Night for you guys. Hope you guys like that. I might do some more Max portraits coming up. Maybe not. Anyways, guys, like, comment, subscribe if you haven't, and I will see you in the next episode. Have a good one.